I just want to share with you a story. I have just a few minutes, and I want to share with you a story. Actually, since it's Chof Beis Shevat, I also want to share with you a personal story. A personal story that I had with the Rebbe that has to do with the Rebbe. But before, I want to know where Rabbi Zalman mentioned to me about mincha. So I suddenly remembered the story. This is actually a story that maybe it's printed somewhere. I am very not good and I don't have a geschmack in reading, so I don't read stories. But it's a story that the shliach, who I spent a few days by, told me a personal story which has made a tremendous impression on me for a long time. It's a few months ago I heard the story and I'm still moved by it, and I want to share it with you, but I want to find out, maybe you have heard the story. Als je zo bij Menachem, als je hebt allemaal de story met een... It's known, the story, they say that it's printed, I never saw it, but it's known as the jet blue Menachem. You heard about that story, no? No. So let me tell you a story with the Menachem, and then I'll get back to my personal story. So some of the shluchim live in remote areas where they cannot have on daily basis a minyan all the time. Okay, now this is a shliach, I can tell you soon who the shliach is also, who lives in happens to be in Florida, which is not so Florida. There are places where there's a lot of minyan. But this was a very little town in Florida, in a very small place where was definitely not a minyan. But what happened was that the shliach's mother passed away, and Sipashet, he couldn't forgive himself. During the shiva, him and his wife sat down and decided that before they were in New York for the Shiva Le'alenu, and they sat down together and they decided before they go back, they're going to make sure that the shliach will have a minyan every day, 3 times a day, that he should be able to daven for the Omet and say Kaddish for his mother. Now, if you can imagine, this is a place where they only had a minyan Shabbos. Only Shabbos they had a minyan, and usually only Shabbos by day. To go from only having Shabbos by day a minyan to making a minyan 3 times a day, Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, and say Kaddish for an entire year is like a dream. It's like not to jump off the roof, just to jump on. Like it's like almost impossible. But the husband and the wife, the shliach and the shlucha, sat down during the shiva. They made phone calls. They went through the pages of their community, people that were in touch with them and people that were not in touch with them. And I'm sure you know that even by Friar people, when it comes to such a situation, there is a certain emotional touch that people care, saying a Kaddish for a mother. So they decided, you know what, it was easier to get people to come to a minyan in order to help this rabbi of the community to be able to say Kaddish. Sure. The shliach tells me 9 months went on every single day. What they did was they had commitments. Mincha Ma'ariv was always together. They had commitments. Mincha Ma'ariv, these 10 people. Mincha Ma'ariv on Sunday, these 10. Monday, Tuesday, every Mincha Ma'ariv they had another 10 commitments. Every Shachris they had another 10 commitments. So everything was set up. they had a minyan. In fact, he tells me that the most difficult time to get a minyan was Friday night. Because Friday night, he couldn't get on the phone. In the middle of the week, if he turned out that there were only 9 people from Menachem, he ran out, he picked up the phone and he called. And Friday night he couldn't call, and if there is no minyan, so he says down the shul, down the Chabad house, down the block, there is the bowling alley. So he would go with his kapote Friday night into the bowling alley and schlep out someone, please come, I need to say Kaddish. It's amazing, it's an incredible thing that they did that, and I'm sure that the aliyah for the neshama, for the mother, besides the fact that they said Kaddish, but the fact that so many even davened, which never otherwise didn't daven, so that was definitely a great thing. Okay. 9 months this went on. Until, finally, it was, the family had, I don't know what was the reason, but the family, the whole entire family from that shliach, his brothers, they were going to Eretz Yisrael together. Now, if you live in Florida and you go to Eretz Yisrael, he was going to have a flight from Florida to New York, and then from New York to take a flight to Eretz Yisrael. So Shachris wasn't a problem, because Shachris, he still had his same 10 commitments from the day. Ma'ariv wasn't a problem, because on a flight to Eretz Yisrael, there's enough people on the flight too. But the mincha was a little fragile here. So this shliach has a brother in Long Island, about 10 minutes away from JFK, from New York airport. So the shliach arranged, his brother arranged for the brother from Florida, 10 people to wait for him. And he lands from Florida, have a minyan, and then he goes to his next flight. Very good. Except that what happened was that they come on, the plane starts to move, the plane is already away from the door, they're already on the runway, whatever. The pilot announces that for some reason that in New York there's trouble in the airport, they can't land, there is a 90-minute delay. 90 minutes. He even said to the people, and because they know it's going to be 90 minutes, by the way, I had the same story now when I came here. I had 3 hours. And we sat for an hour and a half on the plane, and then we were told to take all our stuff and we changed the plane. But ich habe nicht gedacht, nach der Mincha. Ich habe schon gedacht, Mincha Frieden. The kid said, this shliach, 90 minutes. He looks at his watch and he says, uh-oh, there goes his mincha. In 90 minutes, finish. It's after Shkia, it's after nightfall. If they are leaving from here in 90 minutes, by the time they get into JFK, there's no mincha. And he decided, no way, it's not happening. I'm not allowing this to happen. 9 months with their blood, they insisted. And they made the whole town crazy. And so many people had Mesilas Nefesh for this. Not to miss even one davening, he's not missing that mincha. So he gets up and he says to the flight attendants, I'm sorry, I'm going down. He figured that I'm gonna lose my flight there to Yisrael, I'm not staying there. This guy, this flight attendant looks at him, you're going down? Where? You're in the middle of a runway, you're not going anywhere. You're not, this plane, you can't go a plane in the middle of a runway. So he starts to pull all his connections. He has a brother who is a chaplain in one town, and another brother a chaplain in another town. He's driving everybody crazy. There's no such thing. There's no such thing you're going off this plane. The shliach looks around and says to himself, you know what? Maybe I have a minyan on the plane. To have a minyan, this is a JetBlue flight, a minyan of 10 people from Florida small chances, but he figured, okay, so he gets up, and he looks, and he sees somebody in the crowd, he sees somebody's face, you can see on his face that this is a Jewish guy, and he says to him, "You're Jewish?" "Yes." "I want to make a minyan." He says to him, so the guy laughs at him, "You want to make a minyan here now? When you have 3 people come to me, like, you want 10 people here? It's not happening." Sure. He started, he's going, the whole place, remember, everybody is bored on the plane, people are sitting 90 minutes, so everybody got involved with this minyan. The whole plane, all the goyim got involved with this minyan. Everybody wanted to help him. They didn't know exactly what it is, but they knew that, after his mother died, you have to say Kaddish, something. They understood that it's a very touchy thing, that they would want to help him. Fine. They look and they look. Now, Mashkocha Peratis, it turned out that the CEO from the company, from JetBlue, was on the plane with a group of from the corporate office. They flew on that flight to New York. So now here the CEO of the company is on the plane, and he's a goy, but he wants to, his client is on the plane, his client needs help, it's his customer. So he himself gets up on the microphone, and he's announcing, anybody that's Jewish, please, and they're scratching together the pilot. Now we're going to call maybe the pilot turned out not to be Jewish. To make a long story short, there were 9 Jews on the plane. Shliach tells me that when he realized there were 9 Jews on the plane, he sat down, tears came from him, and he started crying. He says, "Eibishter, if you want to do this to me, why did you need to send me 9 Jews? If there is no Jews on the plane, there is no. 9 people on the plane, that's not fair." So this lady was sitting on the plane, and a goy, and she says to him, "Rabbi, I have cousins that are Jewish. I can put them on the phone." So he says, "I also have cousins that are Jewish that I could put on the phone, but that doesn't help me." Suddenly, somebody comes up and says to him, "Rabbi, I'm Jewish." Now this is someone that the shliach asked him a few times, "Are you Jewish?" Because everybody on the plane was asked 3 times. And he said clearly no. The shliach was already at that point, he wasn't in a good mood, and he didn't believe him. And he realized the guy wants to stop driving crazy, maybe, you feel bad? Okay, I'll be Jewish for now. And the guy says, "I'm Jewish." The guy next to him says, "Rabbi, well, how come you don't want to believe it?" He started asking him questions. The shliach started asking questions. The guy couldn't get it. He said, "Tells you he's Jewish." Suddenly, this guy opened up and said, "Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam." He said the bracha shakol, but he said the complete bracha. Not only he said it like somebody who is Jewish, but he said it like somebody that grew up from. This guy was be'emes Jewish, became left Yiddishkeit, but was so resentful and so far and so angry and so not interested that he didn't want to admit that he's Jewish, and he didn't want to give in. He wasn't interested. And when he was asked that he's Jewish, he didn't let him. But it came to a point where he pushed at Rachmanos on the guy. He said, "You know what? For this I'll give in." Cheder, he tells me, the shliach tells me that the entire plane was like, the CEO got up, he told the flight attendants to clean up the kitchen area, where they serve, to clean up the kitchen area. and let all the 10 people come in there. And they all put on their heads the napkins, the JetBlue has this special napkins, they all put it on their head. And he started to daven. The entire plane was in awe, and he was saying Kaddish. He says that the flight attendants came over and asked permission, Rabbi, can we take a picture of this? Now, I want to tell you something. An interesting story, Bachlal, amazing. There's a lot of interesting stories. But, to me, what I still can't get over of what kind of crazy things the Eibishter can trade to wake up that Chevreman that was so far off, that was so resentful, and so much did not want to recognize that he is Jewish. He didn't want to give in and he didn't want to share it. Poshet mitzad gashmi, he had nachmanos on this guy, and he broke the ice and he gave in. This is what it took, that it should be 9 people on that plane and it should be stuck. And then he says as soon as they finished davening, the 90 minutes by them were over and the plane took off. He says, Rabbi Kanikov tells me, this is the Shliach Rabbi Kanikov from Satellite Beach, Florida. You ever heard of the place Satellite Beach? That's the place where the space shuttle flies up from his town. You ever heard of a guy, Ilan Ramon? Ilan Ramon was killed in the space shuttle. Ilan Ramon was a member. This Rabbi Kanika was his rabbi. He was a member in his show. What? Right. So sometimes this is extreme things that have to happen to wake someone up. Verstanden der Weise, Rabbi?
Fantastic.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'll tell you a small personal story that happened to me. It's okay, a small personal story that happened with me, and it's connected with the Rebbetzin. So I'll share with you the story because soon Chof Beis Shevat. So what's your name? So the Rebbetzin was nifter Tavshin Menachem. Tavshin Menachem is way before you were born, a long time ago. Before the Rebbetzin was nifter, does anyone here know anything about New York, about 770? You're familiar? Where the Rebbe's house is, you know?
Yeah.
Where? Okay. But from the Rebbe's house to 770 is 50 blocks, you know that. So what happened was, Rabbi Grimam, I will understand. Rabbi Grimam, ich kann mal sehen. So what happened was, because the Rebbe lived a few blocks from 770, in order for the Rebbe not to have to go Shabbos, walk home. So every Erev Shabbos, the Rebbetzin would come next door to 770, the Rebbe's library. There was an apartment there where the Rebbe would stay for Shabbos. So every Erev Shabbos, right before Hadlokas Neiris, right before Lichtbenching, the Rebbe would walk out of his room, where everybody knows, in 770 with the Rebbe's offices, where the Rebbe's room is. The Rebbe would walk out of his room and walk over to the library. Rabbi Fogelman, it's a personal story. I have the library. The Rebbe would walk out from his room and walk over to the library to watch the Rebbe's bench licht, and then the Rebbe would come back. Now at that hour, there was no one there, not a soul, and usually. Not a soul there, because it's right before the Lichtbench, and everybody's got to be home and you're preparing for Shabbos. So nobody was there. Because my family, my wife and I, and at that time I had 2 little kids. What is it, 27 years ago? And the Rebbe, we live in Monsey, which is an hour from Crown Heights, a little more than an hour. We came a lot for Shabbos to be by the Rebbe for Shabbos. So we came for Shabbos, and our place where our host was next door to 770. So what I did always was, I came, I dropped off my suitcase. We didn't have to prepare for Shabbos because we were guests. Dropped off the suitcase, my wife, myself, with the 2 kids. We went to 770, and I watched always the Rebbe walking out of his room, going over to next door, and the Rebbe walked out of his room, and many times I was there. We were there ourselves with the Rebbe. It was just a very special time. The Rebbe shook his head to me. I didn't even know how to respond. It was a very special feeling. Sometimes I would come for Shabbos only for those few moments. But one day, one Shabbos was one special Friday afternoon. It was actually around the time of the Dan Notzach. Remember the story of the Dan Notzach, you know? So a few weeks after that story, oh, now Kid Zion I see is coming in. I see Levi, so I figured it's Kid Zion. So what happened was that Friday afternoon was a shtickl balagan. There was a lot of people there. Usually it was all empty. At that time was a lot of people. So the Rebbe came out of his room, and every time, one thing I forgot to tell you before, and every time the Rebbe would go by, the Rebbe would give a coin for the kids to tzedakah. So, and that's why I wanted to be there. My little kids always got that coin, and if you remember how 770 that office, that hallway looks like, remember that pushka on the wall? There's a pushka attached to the wall. So the Rebbe would hint to the children to put in the coin to the pushka. So the Rebbe gave that Friday afternoon was a big crowd. The Rebbe gave everybody a coin. And at the end, the Rebbe would always walk over and drop a coin himself to the pushka. What happened that week was that because of it's a small place and there was a lot of people there, by the time I reached with my little daughter to the pushka from one side, at the same instant the Rebbe had finished all the kids, and the Rebbe's hand reached at the pushka at the same second with my little baby. And I jumped and I grabbed my little daughter away. And the Rebbe should go first. And the Rebbe looked at me with a very serious face and said, and hinted to me with his finger that I should have her put the coin first. Then the Rebbe dropped the coin himself. And the Rebbe turned around to me with a huge smile on his face. The people were standing there with a gewaltige, shining face. The Rebbe said to me, Heim hikiru techila. And I will leave for Rabbi Kesselman in class to explain to you what that is. Thank you very much. But the point was, the message of Heim hikiru techila was that the little kids come before the adults, and therefore my baby has to put in the coin before the Rebbe. But it's connected to a story that you all know about Kriyas Yam Suf, and we'll talk about it in class. Thank you.